Welcome to another episode of Under the Agency Hood, an interview series designed to shine a light on how agencies think and how they deliver value to their clients. My name is Mark Sneider. I'm founder and CEO of RSW US. We're the nation's leading outsourced new business firm, working almost exclusively with marketing service firms of any type and size. So thanks so much for joining today, everybody. Today we're here with Philip Byrne, the president and founder of SB&A. SB&A is comprised of a seasoned team of marketing and advertising professionals with extensive experience in disciplines ranging from branding, design, campaign execution, media planning and buying, and frankly, everything in between. Their focus is primarily in the areas of travel and tourism marketing and financial services marketing, working with clients like SectorSpdr, American Express, Korea and Switzerland Tourism, and Bermuda Air. They have a smarter model for the new era of advertising, which we'll talk about here in a bit, and they opened their doors in 1998. Philip, welcome. Thanks so much for making the time today.
Mark, thanks for having me.
Excellent.
Great. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. So before we dive too deep into the topics that we're going to talk about today, can you tell me a little bit about SB&A, who you are, what you do? You know, if you've got a superpower, kind of what is that in terms of the primary value you bring to your clients?
Sure. So we are I would say a fully integrated agency. We run the gamut, as you sort of outlined before. We do everything from initial brand strategy and marketing strategy through to creative development, design, and then eventually to media planning, buying and execution of campaigns. Some clients we have work with us across the whole board, and then other clients use us just for design work and concepting, others just for media planning and buying. So we kind of we wear many hats depending on what the client needs. I was thinking about what my superpower is, and I definitely think it's shapeshifting.
Okay.
Because as the founder of the agency, I'm sort of required to be involved with every aspect of the agency. So I have to be very kind of fluid in the way that, I approach my day. There's times when I'm leading the creative teams on certain projects. There's times when I'm deeply involved with the media planning side of the business and how the creative segues with that.
Right.
And then, of course, every day I'm the ultimate point of contact for any client, and I'm the sounding board for clients. So there's sometimes clients just reach out to me for stuff that's unrelated to even projects that we're working on with them.
Okay.
And I'm always happy to sort of lend my perspective on things. So that's kind of every day is different and interesting, and it sort of requires me to be quite flexible in the way that my brain is segmented. I have to.
Yeah. I would imagine clients are probably pretty appreciative of the fact that they have access to the head of the agency and can dialogue about issues.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's the great thing about having a smaller agency, is that there isn't all of these layers of bureaucracy, and I always point out that when we are pitching new business or talking to new clients, it's that the team that they see on the video call or that are in the actual meeting are the team that they're working with.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that's really important, I think, to clients.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, tourism and finance, it's an interesting pairing of categories that you play in for sure. Can
Yeah.
you talk to me a little bit about how you got to that place? And then separately, what do you enjoy most about working in each of those categories?
Sure. Um, it's a very unusual story, to be honest with you. It's it was one of the most bizarre pitches that I've ever done. And if you have time, hopefully there's time, I can tell you the story. So the agency was only a few months old
Okay.
in 1998, and I had a lot of experience at other agencies working with financial services clients. So I had this, I already had a pedigree of work that I'd done with financial services, and out of the blue, I got a phone call from the new marketing director at Austrian Airlines,
Hmm.
and um, and they wanted us to come in and you know present some of our work.
And you had no tourism experience.
No
Yeah.
tourism experience
Okay.
at all, and I
Yeah.
asked them, well, why, why did you reach out to us? And they said, well, we'd gotten some direct mail work, and we'd seen some of your ads in Barron's, and we saw how you communicated to investors and
Hmm.
to the high net worth audience,
Okay.
and we have a need to fill our business class cabin, and that's the audience that we're trying to reach. So we feel that if you already can communicate with them, uh, through the investment products and through asset management products, you can talk their language,
Yeah.
the language of business travel, and honestly, the audiences are very similar. They're the same people. They're like,
Right.
they like to travel. They've got a global sensibility, but they're open to sophisticated messaging. So, hey, listen, I'll give it a shot. I'll go in and I'll do the pitch. So,
Yeah.
if you remember, in 1998, we were still using portfolios and flipping through samples and stuff like that. So I go in to present to the new marketing director and the general manager of the airline, who was Austrian. And I sat in this guy's office, and I went through the whole book. And at no point did he look at anything in the book. He sat there with his head in his hands, not looking at anything. And I presented for half an hour. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? The guy's not even looking at the work. And he just said, yeah, keep going, keep presenting. It was the most bizarre
Hmm.
presentation. So I left there thinking, okay, this is it. I've blown it. Went back to my office, told my business partner at the time, I said, I think that was a complete waste of time. The guy didn't even look at the work. And I get a phone call later that afternoon saying, okay, yeah, we want you to start on the account straight away. And are like, how did this
How
happen?
and
And then
why?
it was a couple of years later, after working with the client and really getting to know the general manager, that I said to him, I said, Franz, that was one of the most bizarre presentations I've ever given. And he said I'd already seen your work, I already was familiar with what it looked like. He said, I didn't have very good English at the time, and I really wanted to concentrate on what you were saying as
Hmm.
part of your presentation. So I didn't
Okay.
want to be distracted by
Right.
beautiful
Pretty
visuals.
pictures. Yeah.
I wanted to hear how
Interesting.
you sold the work and how you sold the agency. So he
Yeah.
said that's the only way I could do it is by not looking at the work and just focusing on what you were saying.
That is awesome.
And it worked. I said, "Well, that's great. I mean, it's. I wish I wish I'd been recording
Yeah.
the pitch, because clearly it worked." But so anyway, that long story short, that's how we started working with an airline. It
Okay.
was the first airline we got, and then from that work, they actually referred us on to other airlines that they were all in the same
Right.
world, and they see the work that you're doing. So that led us to KLM and Air France, and then
That's awesome.
also from we started working with the Austrian tourist office because of the connection with the airline, and then the Austrian tourist office in turn had colleagues at the Switzerland tourist office. So of course, it just filtered
Started.
on from
Yeah.
there, all
Yeah.
through referrals, which is great. And of course, those referrals only happen if you actually are doing a stellar job for your
Yeah.
existing
Right.
client, and they're happy to refer you on to a colleague or a friend,
Right.
um, because they're in competition with one another, but it's friendly competition. And I
Yeah.
and if you can encourage people to travel to Europe on Austrian Airlines, chances are that might stop off in Switzerland on the way there, you
Sure,
know.
sure, yeah,
So all short drives with stuff like that. So that's really how we
found
essentially
your
how
way.
that we got our foothold
Yeah,
into travel. And then that ultimately led to our relationship with American Express, because American Express is
was big
not
into,
only a credit card
yeah,
issuer, but they're also a travel
yeah,
company.
definitely,
The roots are in travel. So,
right,
I think they were intrigued with the fact that we had both sides of a personality. We were both
interesting,
financial services savvy, understood financial products, but also knew the nuance of communicating
cool,
to to that audience that
right.
is ready to spend money on great trips. So that's really how that all happened.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. So it's really, selling the understanding of the consumer. Oftentimes you're selling the experience in a category,
Yeah.
so that's really fascinating how it worked both ways across
Yep.
both finance and over on the travel tourism side, where that
Yep.
understanding really helped set you guys apart. Uh, the things that you particularly enjoy about working in both of those categories?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally, I think that we've been very lucky with the fact that our clients are super nice people to work with.
That's great.
That they're pleasant individuals, but also that I think in both categories we've been lucky that we've had clients that just want to do really good work
Hmm.
and want to kind of push the envelope a little bit,
Okay.
and are not afraid to have a little bit of swagger in their, the way that they present themselves to the
Right.
outside world, and are looking for an agency that kind of understands how to represent some of their very complex products that they have in
Okay.
really engaging ways,
Right.
and really drill down deep into what their offerings
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
I just think when you have a bunch of smart people in the same room together who are solely focused on putting out the best product they can, that's
Yeah. It's
I mean,
exciting.
you want to come into work every day to do
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Right. Right. So you talk, speaking of smarter, people, smart people in the room. You talk about your agency as being a smarter model for a new era of advertising. Can you
Hmm.
talk a little bit about what that new era looks like outside of maybe the world of AI, which we can discuss in a minute, and how are the demands or the requirements different today than say they were 10 years ago? And then how do you think SB&A is set up to sort of find its way forward there?
Yeah, I think what a lot of clients are looking for now is, what I call kind of like the Goldilocks agency, which
Okay.
is, the agency that is has the right size for them, the right set of skills, and the perfect price point for
Hmm.
them. So like, all of that has to come in
Right.
together and
Right.
align perfectly. And some agencies have one of those features, some of them have two, not many have all three.
Right.
And I think the way that we are striving to structure ourselves to try to manage to get all three, which is
Hmm.
basically, our philosophy has been, and it's sort of evolved over time, but we have built this kind of very core team of really, really seasoned professionals. Everyone on my team has at least 10 years experience in their field, whether it's
Okay.
account management or media planning or creative, um, and at least 10 years within either travel or financial services
Okay.
experience.
Got it.
This core kind of team of expertise. And then, and it's a small team. And then what we do is we build out from that. We kind of have a network of specialists, and I want to caveat that they are not freelancers. We don't consider them freelancers.
Got it.
These are relationships that we've built over decades
It's
with
important.
people
Yep.
that are like really stellar at what they do, the top
Yeah.
1% of what they do.
That's awesome.
And we have the ability to kind of pull those people in on projects or relationships for clients on a need to basis. So what that really means is that we're able to kind of build these curated teams around the specific needs of a client. And sometimes that is a project need. Sometimes it is a campaign that might be running for a year. Sometimes it's longer term. And what that means is that we can scale up or scale down depending on the needs of the client. We can morph ourselves into a different type of team depending on what the client needs. So it's always striving to be that perfect Goldilocks fit for the client. And it goes back to my previous thing about shape-shifting, about being this agency that can be really agile, really flexible, but still have the core team that's driving everything, that's driving the strategy, that's driving the creative, and you're just pulling in the particular expert you need for something. So we're not carrying this big overhead of having a bloated team that only the editors are only working half the time, or certain writers are not working full out. I mean, it gives us the ability to be able to be all in on a challenge, all in on a project, but not having the big overhead as a result of that. That really works for clients, big time.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, we've got a separate agency search business that we run. We don't do a lot of searches every year, but when marketers come to us, one of the things that they're looking for is an agency that can be more agile and flexible and not, tied down by these huge long-term, everybody would love a long-term retainer, but just, being, working with an agency that can really help them, move their business forward and sort of adjust as they need to adjust. And so it's great that you guys are set up to do that. So just shifting gears a bit, SectorSpdr, the ETF client that you've got, really interesting story from just a growth standpoint. You've really done a great job of moving them light years ahead of where they were when you first started working with them. Can you talk to me about how that work is different in general, say, than the work you might do for an American Express?
Yeah, I would categorize SectorSpdr as the perfect client, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It's a really small team that really know their products inside and out. I mean, the team there really, just stellar. And that's an interesting client because we actually pitched that client with another agency. A friend of mine, Mark DePippa, who has his own agency called DNA Creative. They were primarily an entertainment agency, but he had the contact. One of his golf buddies or something knew someone, and they knew they were looking for a new agency. So we said we'd go in and pitch it together. And one of the things that happened during the initial pitch was, we asked the client why they were looking to change agencies, and the response was that their current agency had done nothing wrong, but they'd done nothing right either. That really stuck with me, and it's always stuck with me for years. I've thought about that statement, that I never want to be the agency that takes their clients for granted and that takes the work for granted. You always want to be someone that's challenging the client, but in really smart ways. Not trying to make their life difficult, just trying to push them to do, more interesting work, to push them to be more innovative, and frankly, present them with ideas that they can reject time and time again until something sticks. And you always want to be that. You're only as good as your last campaign. You're only as good as your last idea. You never want to take that for granted. So with SectorSpdr, what's great about them is that they really value what we bring to the table, and we're a long-term relationship. We are an extension of their existing team.
That's awesome.
We really understand their business. And the nice thing is that they do want to do stuff that's different in the financial services sector. They do want to be they do want to look different from everyone. They do. They have big budgets. but they want to look really big in a very select number of places.
Okay.
And that's really what we've leaned into with them. And the wonderful thing about them is that we started with the account. They had as an ETF fund, they had $13 billion in assets under management when we started with them, which was an astronomical number for us, $13 billion. And now I think it's a little shy of over 300 billion in assets under management.
Yeah.
So incredible growth over 18 years.
Yeah.
I like to think that we've been instrumental in that growth. Part of it. I wish I had negotiated my contract as percentage of that growth, but unfortunately we didn't.
Yeah.
But it's been a really great relationship, and it's that I strive to have that type of partnership with every single client, because it's we're in it together, and we really have a common goal of doing great, fantastic work, and wanting to grow that business for them and for ourselves. So it's been really good.
That's great.
So that's a long-term relationship. But the Amex stuff is a little different. Amex is more of a project by project.
Okay, got it.
So Amex have come to us generally for if they have I think they have 85 agencies that work for Amex.
Sure.
And we're one of the smaller ones, and they generally have come to us if they have a very complex product that they want to, and it's generally on the B2B, usually to their merchants. Like, it can be about their payment process, or something that seems very, very dry and complex, or about how they use credit card data.
Mm-hmm.
And we will build, generally they use us for video work. So we'll do a lot of taking a lot of complex things and trying to distill it down to become a very compelling narrative, compelling message. So if it's a really complex product, we come in and we help them, create a video or an explainer video about something. And that's been very much a different product every month or every couple of months. It's something new, So it's a different kind of relationship with them, but all valuable at the end of the day, and all and again, it goes back to what I was saying before about being the Goldilocks agency. You have to be able to switch gears. Some clients you have very, very long-term relationships with, and it's going to be building up their strategy over years and years. And other ones, it's just, okay, we need you for this week.
Which is cool.
And that's it. And you just have to be able to roll
definitely
that,
definitely have to be able to do that. So the topic of AI, it's everywhere. I'm curious, how has it found its way into the world of SB&A? Where do you see its greatest value and maybe its greatest vulnerability as it relates to maybe not just your business but in general?
Yeah, well, I think we are using AI every day. It's just part of our and I think there would be few agencies out there that are not using it in some capacity. I would say that we are using it more as a tool, rather than a driver of strategy or a driver of creative.
Makes sense.
I think we have been using it it's been useful for the ideation process. Kick off some ideas. It's been very good for versioning copy or versioning visuals, where you might have a concept and you want to flesh that out across many, many different looks and feels. And then we've also been using it, some degree we've started to use it for AI driven focus groups, which I think is an interesting solution. So it's a way to use AI focus groups to test messaging, test visuals for campaigns, but ultimately you use a real focus group before it goes live. So it's a great way to sort of eliminate some, and there's an expense in a series of focus groups. So if you can eliminate some of that expense up front by using AI focus groups initially, there's something valuable there around that. I personally use AI. I use Gemini in Google Notebook for for if we're doing research on a client or on a product. Generally, especially with financial services, I will get like 180 page white paper on
Right.
you know trends in investments. Like sectors versus size and style. I can't read I mean, I can't, honestly, I can't digest 180 pages of a white paper, or a brand study that's 80 pages long.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I do is I'll pull in I'll pull them into Google Notebook, and I'll type in a prompt saying, okay, this is the campaign they're
Sure.
working at. These are the key points we need to try and get across. Pull out the pertinent information I need to be able to make some decisions around this. And what would have taken me hours of reading
Yeah,
and highlighting and going back, can be done now in minutes. And the
yeah.
insights are really valuable. And of course, you have to understand what you're asking for first
Right.
to make sure that it is, accurate. But it really does cut down on a lot of
Yeah,
just
yeah.
hours.
Unnecessary. Yeah.
So I've been using it personally for that. Where we do use it extensively is on the media planning and buying side.
Okay. Interesting.
So we use AI for predictive bidding
Okay.
on the trade desk, which is that we use the trade desk to for our programmatic buying for clients, and so we use their AI tools for audience targeting, for third party research,
Yep.
and then ultimately we use their AI tools for bidding on media,
Okay.
and having these predictive models that will find the most efficient media for clients. So we've been using that really extensively. Now, as the business owner, I know just enough knowledge about media buying to get myself into big trouble. And I had a media director here. She would be kicking me under the desk, say, "Okay, stop.
Yeah.
Stop talking."
Right.
But but I've seen how it's been used on that side of things, and it's really
Yeah.
remarkable. From the
Yeah.
point of view of being able to crunch big data models. It's just incredible. So we're using it a lot for that.
That's great.
Where I get back to your original question, where do I see the vulnerability of
Yes.
AI?
Yep.
I think that there is a tremendous amount of AI slop out there. We all can see that.
Sure.
I really struggle with how it's being used for creative. I have to say
Okay.
that every AI generated video or generated ad I see, it just still looks so much like AI. And I think the problem with it is that it's all the AI generative models are so much focused on the final render of what it's going to look like
Yeah.
that you lose the idea, you lose the concept.
Yeah.
It's just not there from the get-go. I think what happens is that creatives, our client says, well, let's use AI. And the problem is that then it limits the creativity. It
Yeah.
doesn't
Really
expand
does.
it. It doesn't open it. Suddenly you are now saying, okay, what can we, it's more about what's the finished product going to look like,
Yeah.
as opposed to what was the original idea,
Yeah. The thinking that yeah, that goes
the
into it.
thinking
Right.
behind it,
Exactly.
and,
Yeah.
and then I think ultimately the vulnerability of AI too is the fact that consumers are already starting to push back against AI. There's already this movement against, marketers going out there with stuff that's just pure AI. I mean, you can see with the Coca-Cola ad at Christmas, the reaction to
Right.
that. You can see that that Apple went the opposite way and did hand puppets for their ad. Our Coinbase, which is like the latest ad I'm seeing that came out during the Oscars, which I think was a brilliant concept where it looked like a video game, but it was real people and real actors. And
Yeah.
so I can already see that there's this pendulum swing
Yeah.
back the
Yeah.
other way where
Definitely.
there's an appreciation for craft,
Hmm.
there's appreciation for human messaging and for that human touch.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately, there'll be some sort of hybrid model where it settles into
Yeah.
something. But
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now, I think it's still people are still trying to figure out where they land on all this.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think there's so much of it out there. And I've seen, people rely on it too heavily without really, thinking like, okay, I've got my answer here, and let's move forward without really, thinking through alternatives or like you were saying, the idea behind it, or so it definitely is. It can get a little bit messy.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm
yeah.
trying not to be a Luddite about it. I'm trying to be really open.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, I've been in the business for a long time, and I have some colleagues that are like, I just don't even want to look at AI, or
Yeah.
it just, to me, it's a lot like the what we loved about the business is suddenly disappearing. But I think that you have to embrace it. You have to look at it and say, okay, how is this going to make my work better? How is it going to make my life easier? That's my whole attitude that when I approach AI,
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to make this our last question here.
Okay.
So let's take a look into the future, kind of 10 years out from now. What do you see the ad world looking like, and how is SB&A, in your opinion, set up to deliver effectively for current, future clients?
Well, I really think, I mean, it's hard to predict the future, but I kind of believe that that what we conceive as as an advertising campaign or as ad marketing is going to be completely different 10 years from now. I think that, I think there'll be I think consumers will start to reclaim their privacy. I think government regulation will start to kick in, where there'll be, a real pushback against tracking and against, following marketers, following people online. I think that there will be a lot of pushback from consumers about how they engage with brands. So I don't think it'll be a brands pushing their message out to consumers. I think it'll start coming the other way, where they'll be very selective about what types of brands they want to engage with. Um, I do think that from an advertising point of view, I think there'll be big changes in the way that advertising agencies are structured. I think that the days of the large holding companies, I think, are done. I honestly think that's already beginning to happen.
Yeah.
I think, like, there's nothing right now. There is nothing that WPP or Omnicom can offer their clients that a small independent agency can't already offer.
Right.
And
You're absolutely right. Yep.
AI has enabled that. The talent pool has enabled that. So I think that those large holding companies are still living off the legacy that they had built over, decades, and that
Absolutely.
legacy is kind of fading fast. So I think 10 years from now, you'll see a lot of small independent shops. I think that's the way it's going to be. But they'll be really specialized, and they'll be really, you know, they'll be really honed in on a client. I think
Yeah.
you're naturally going to see a lot of streamlining. I think there's going to be a lot of jobs lost, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I think that there will be opportunities there for smaller shops and more specialized shops. And I think the big holding companies are, yeah, they're going to go, the way of the dinosaurs, unfortunately, for them. But I think that's great for us. So I'm hopeful around that. I think also, uh, I think there's going to be, again, human interaction will become the most valuable commodity out there. I
Yeah.
think that that it'll all be about ideas, and it'll all be about, because the how you execute those ideas will all be AI, and
Yeah.
that'll be a commodity, and
Yeah. Right.
that will be something that anyone, even in-house teams or even marketing,
Yeah.
CMOs, companies or brand managers, will be able to execute a campaign themselves. They won't
Yeah.
need an agency to do it,
Yeah.
but they still will need the ideas. They'll still
Yeah.
need that creative.
Yeah, it's interesting that perspective, because I will, sometimes tell our agency clients or prospects I'm talking to that, and I don't mean this literally, but you all kind of do the same thing. You have the same service offerings, and what sets one agency apart from another is really the level of thinking and strategy and insights that they can bring to the table, to help a client move its business forward. And so I think that, where we have been pre AI and the need to do that is probably no different than, in the AI world, where an agency like yours that can be nimble and a little fluid and use the level of expertise and sophistication that you guys have, to bring that kind of thinking and those kind of insights, to the table for a marketer. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the whole philosophy behind how we're gearing up the agency is to be ready for this type of
yeah,
environment
right,
where it's really just about really gathering smart people around the table, and how ultimately how the sausage gets made at the end of the day is either that's done by the client themselves,
yeah,
or are we bringing the experts to do it. But
yeah,
ultimately, what we're selling is our thinking, and we're
yeah,
selling our strategy, and we're selling our ideas.
yeah,
Uh, and that's really where I see the value is going to be, and hopefully our model is set up to take advantage of that.
yeah, yeah. I think so. Yeah. Well, this has been great. Great conversation. Really appreciate you making the time today, and love the setup of SB&A in terms of how you guys operate and the talents that that you've partnered with over the years to help move clients like SectorSpdr forward, and help clients like Amex sort of when they have their specific needs, that you're there to be able to fulfill those. And so I think that. I think the way you've created the agency, and the way you're moving things forward for clients, just makes a heck of a lot of sense, and I think is pretty darn impressive. So I
Thank you. Appreciate it.
kudos to you guys, and yeah, appreciate you making the time today, and wish you nothing but the
Anytime.
best going forward.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Thanks for it.
All
Really
right,
enjoyed it.
yep, thanks so
Okay,
much, Philip.
thank you. Bye.